Lwandile, very good evening to you. Thank you for coming in. So before we even get to the challenges that await these first-year students in particular on campus, the country is dealing with a crisis of not having enough space for all of those who wish to study. How's it looking currently?
As things stand, we have an increment in terms of matric pass rate, that is a 3.1% increase. That takes it to 81.3%. That means that there's a lot of people that have passed and have made themselves available for university entrances. The numbers are staggering high, and universities have not created enough infrastructure to be able to deal with the backlog that is there in terms of classrooms, in terms of the infrastructure that is needed to produce more and more graduates in the country.
And just on the government announcement in 2017, I remember December of that year, that free education will now be made available for poor and missing middle students. In reality, how has that improved the lot of young people who want to study in the country? Because it's one thing for the pronouncement to be made, but the application is quite crucial.
Look, we have moved from one crisis to the next, from a functioning NSFAS to an NSFAS that does not have a board. If you would remember that NSFAS currently is under administration with an administrator, Dr. Lwandile Mtsolo. So it means that we take resolution as a country, then we take 10 steps backwards in terms of implementation. If the state deemed me qualifying for free education in 2013, when I'm pursuing my master's in 2019, 2020, how then the state and universities expect me to be able to pay for my fees when it deemed me that I'm poor at the time? So that is the crisis that has been perpetual, to say that it has not been able to sustain the funding model. There's a lot of historical debts that the state has not dealt with in terms of ensuring that students are able to register and continue to be able to get to post-graduate studies, to PhD, and ultimately produce new academics.
So based on what you're saying then, Lwandile, what you're saying to me tonight is that the fight for free higher education, especially for the poor and missing middle, is far from over. Would I be right to understand you to be saying that the functioning of a national student fund such as NSFAS is then the next battle line?
Yes, we need to create state institutions that are going to be viable. You can't read financial reports of NSFAS to find out that there's expenditure that is fruitless. There's millions and millions that has been spent fruitlessly in terms of over expenditure and not necessarily meeting the criteria. There's about 28,000 students that need to go on second review that we deem are fit for them to qualify for NSFAS. But we're saying that the low pace of implementation in South Africa is actually taking us back, because we had agreed with the department that everybody that qualifies for free education, whether this year or the previous years, must be allowed to register in order to complete their studies. But the implementation process of that, we take a step forward and we take 10 steps back. That's the crisis that we're facing as a country.
But are you, as student bodies, sympathetic where NSFAS is concerned to the position of Professor Carlson, who was sent in to try and fix NSFAS, which was, as we all know, has been recorded even in Parliament, was in a terrible state when he arrived?
Well, look, we have been with Dr. Carlson. I think we are the leadership of SAUS that called for the dissolvement of the board, as led by Susan Masana and the then CEO, Stephen Zwan. Our call was that we saw that the state funds were not being handled properly. So we called that the board must resign or the board must be dismantled. And the board was dismantled by the then Minister, Naledi Pan. But then we had expected that there was going to be a tremendous change. Dr. Lwandile Mtsolo came in, and we were the first ones out of stakeholders to say, no, we should extend the term of administration, because we had seen that within 12 months nobody could fix NSFAS. But we are now calling that there should be more investigations, there should be more people that are being arrested, there should be more in terms of ensuring that the ICT capacity of NSFAS increases. There should be more funds available to NSFAS. For an example, you have just merged two departments. Department of Higher Education and Science and Technology. Science and Technology has the funds of the National Research Fund, NRF, that is there to ensure that postgraduate funding is funded. But now you have taken Science and Technology to the Department of Higher Education and Training. So it means that there shouldn't be a crisis for postgraduate funding if so much money that came from Science and Technology is within one department. What we lack is political willingness from those that are in power.
Okay, I want to talk about another thing that costs money, and that's accommodation. We know various pronouncements have been made to try and fix that, and without a place to stay. We've seen desperate situations, documentaries being made about how young people are sleeping in bathrooms on campus because private accommodation is so costly often or just unsafe. How much progress has been made since you guys started fighting that battle?
Well, we've been fighting for education, and there's an infrastructural grant that the department has released. But then again, the grants are released to universities. For an example, if you do a calculation of how much is released to the University of Zululand, and then you'd expect to see a massive construction site when you arrive at the university. But what you find is that there's totally no will for the implementation process of building those residences. We've seen new buildings in Fort Hare, we've seen new buildings at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, but still, if you build 500 beds over a period of three years, you are not necessarily assisting the situation. We've been asking that Public Works give some of the buildings that they no longer use in town so that they are able to house students, because student housing is a serious crisis. It deals with the dignity of the student, because when you don't know where to sleep, it alters your mind and it makes you vulnerable to all other cases of rape, sexual assault, and many other unsavory things that happen in society.
Realistically then, Lwandile, how strong is your lobby? How much can you do for students, and very quickly, given the fact that what happens on campuses is not a sort of situation that people have a lot of time? It's immediate and needs to be sorted out almost instantly.
Yes, we have our SRCs across board working tirelessly, and we have been engaging with them. I mean, today we've woken up to the crisis at UNISA, and we were there dealing with that crisis. But what we have is our organized force as students. What we have is our ability to unite, our ability to conscientize, and our ability to fix issues. If we have seen that this registration period is deteriorating, it's us as students, not the union or the Secretary General or the President of the union, but the student body as a whole, to say that we are taking decisive action, to say that here we are drawing the line, and then we are going to organize ourselves and can negotiate for better settlements with the state.
Lwandile Mtsolo, Secretary General of the South African Union of Students, thank you so much for being on Nightline tonight.